Hello there, very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV. One for the Newsfirst, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan.
And I'm Peruni Karunaratna. Here are tonight's top stories. Special Presidential Commission with full powers appointed to probe coal transactions since 2009. Energy Minister and Secretary resign to facilitate independent inquiry. GMRD Aponsu appointed new Energy Secretary. No fraud in coal imports. Government never bought crude oil at $286, says Minister Bimal. All set for International Walk for Peace carrying non-violence message. Several monks already in Sri Lanka. Heroin worth 4,020 million rupees seized from vessel intercepted in southern seas. Bodies of 8 drowning victims recovered from Dadru Oya. Trump says ready to go to Pakistan for peace talks.
On to those stories in detail. Sri Lanka's Minister of Power and Energy, Kumara Jayakodi, and Ministry Secretary Professor Udayanga Hemapala have resigned from their respective posts to facilitate an impartial and independent investigation by the recently appointed Special Presidential Commission of Inquiry into coal imports and related electricity generation processes.
In his letter of resignation submitted to the President, Minister Kumara Jayakodi stated that he appreciates the President's courageous resolve against corruption and commitment to the public mandate. He specifically referred to the decision to appoint a Special Presidential Commission to investigate coal supply-related matters, as well as the submission of a complaint by the Secretary to the President to the Criminal Investigation Department, calling for a formal investigation into coal imports dating back to 2009. Accordingly, Minister Jayakodi noted in his resignation letter that he firmly believes the upcoming investigation must be conducted fully independently and without any form of bias. Meanwhile, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy, Professor Udayanga Hemapala, in his letter of resignation expressed his belief that stepping down from his post would be appropriate in order to ensure that the forthcoming investigations proceed without obstruction and that their independence is fully safeguarded. Meanwhile, a Special Presidential Commission of Inquiry with full powers chaired by Supreme Court Judge Gihan Kulatunga was appointed this morning to investigate all coal-related transactions carried out in Sri Lanka from the commencement of coal-based electricity generation in the country up to yesterday. President Anurukumara Dissanayake appointed the commission in terms of the provisions of Section 2 of the Special Presidential Commission of Inquiry Act No. 7 of 1978. Read with the amended provisions of the Special Presidential Commission of Inquiry Act No. 4 of 1978. The other members of the commission are Court of Appeal Judge Aditya Patabandige and High Court Judge Sanjeeva Somaratna. Former Secretary to a State Ministry P.V. Bandulasena has been appointed as Secretary to the Commission.
A press conference was convened at the Department of Government Information this evening to clarify the government's actions regarding the resignation of the Minister of Energy and the allegations levelled against the importation of coal.
We state very responsibly and with great emphasis as a government that no fraud of any kind took place in this coal importation. There is an established procedure for this, procurement guidelines as well as sample testing. All of those were conducted in various international laboratories and we followed those procurement guidelines for the importation. However, we admit that there was a certain decline in the quality of the coal that was brought in. We clearly and openly informed the people of this country about that. Beyond that, no investigation conducted so far has confirmed that any corruption or fraud occurred through the direct involvement of the minister or anyone else. There are no deals that have been made by the minister by talking directly to coal companies to bring these in improperly. Anyone is welcome to come forward and present any information or data that they have. The government has decided that an investigation that is open to the public is necessary. That is why the President decided to establish a Special Presidential Commission of Inquiry to provide that opportunity. This commission is very open to the public. Anyone can come and present any information, data or evidence that they possess. Through this commission, we expect to go beyond the audit report, the no confidence motion and the CID investigation to allow the public to provide information if necessary. The people always expect an impartial and formal investigation from us. It was to protect that impartiality in the truest sense of the word that the Honourable Minister resigned from his post today. Similarly, the Ministry Secretary also tendered his resignation today to ensure that the investigation proceeds impartially.
අපක්ෂපාතීව සිදු කරන් යන්න. හැබැයි තව චෝදනාවක් තියෙනවා. බොරතෙල් 268 වගේ වැඩි මුදල් ගත්තා කියලා. බොරතෙල් කියලා කවුද කිව්වේ? HSBC එකේ අපි අභියෝග කරනවා.
We challenge you, if you can, to prove that Sri Lanka, you said crude oil, right?
ඔබතුමා කියන්නේ බොරතෙල් කියලා නිසා අපි අභියෝග කරනවා.
That's why I'm saying it wasn't crude oil. We challenge your media institution or anyone else to prove that the Sri Lankan government brought in crude oil for $280 or whatever amount.
ඩොලර් 260 කියන්නේ.
Meanwhile, President Anura Kumara Dissanayake has appointed GMR Ponsu as the Secretary to the Ministry of Energy. Ponsu, a senior officer of the Sri Lanka Planning Service, previously served as Senior Additional Secretary to the President, overseeing finance and economic affairs.
There have been media revelations over a long period regarding coal-related frauds. Expect further special disclosures on the matter from tomorrow onwards.
Sri Lanka is in a stronger position than it was at the height of its economic crisis to support citizens affected by rising energy costs, but must continue its reform path to secure long-term stability. These comments were made by Krishna Srinivasan, the director of the IMF's Asia and Pacific Department.
Like many other countries in Asia, Sri Lanka also relies a lot on import of energy when it was oil and gas. So they are as vulnerable as other countries in the region. The point I was making in response to the previous question was that over the last 3 years, they have slowly built up buffers on the fiscal side. Their revenue as a share of GDP has doubled from the bottom of the crisis to where we are today. So they are in a better position than they were before to provide targeted fiscal support. At the same time, it's important that they continue on the reforms which have embarked upon so that they can secure inclusive and balanced and strong growth going forward.
An international walk for peace carrying a global message of non-violence led by the Vietnamese Buddhist monk Venerable Panyakara Thero, who gained worldwide attention through the Walk for Peace in the United States, is scheduled to be held in Sri Lanka from April 22nd to the 28th of April. Several Buddhist monks participating in the Walk for Peace arrived in Sri Lanka early this morning. The Maharaja Media Network is the official media and coordination partner for the Sri Lankan chapter of the pilgrimage.
A group of 12 monks led by Venerable Panyakara Thero, who previously led the Walk for Peace in the United States of America, is scheduled to take part in the walk in Sri Lanka. Among them, several monks, including Venerable Ratanasa Thero from Thailand, arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport in Katunayake at around 5:30 a.m. today. Following a long journey, the monks are expected to spend the coming days making initial preparations for this significant peace pilgrimage. Venerable Panyakara Thero, who will lead the Walk for Peace, is due to arrive in Sri Lanka early on the 21st of April, along with Aloka, the globally recognized dog that drew attention during the Walk for Peace in the US, and several accompanying team members. On the same day, the Venerable Thero will proceed to Anuradhapura to pay homage to the historic Jai Shri Mahabodhi. On that occasion, a sapling of the Shri Mahabodhi, which is to be carried during the Walk for Peace, will be ceremonially presented to Venerable Panyakara Thero by the Atmasthanadipati Thero and the Mahasangha. Thereafter, an invocation of blessings is scheduled to be held at the Ruanvali Saya premises with the participation of monks joining the Walk for Peace. The Walk for Peace is scheduled to commence on the morning of the 22nd of April. The walk for peace will begin from the Dambulla sacred city and is scheduled to reach the Aluvihara in Mathale by the evening of the same day. On the 23rd of April, the walk for peace will recommence from the Aluvihara in Mathale and conclude at the Sri Dalata Maligava in Kandy. On the 24th of April, the walk for peace will begin from the upper terrace of the Sri Dalata Maligava and proceed to the Beligammana Rajamahavihara in Kegol. And on the 25th of April, the walk for peace will resume from the Beligammana Rajamahavihara and travel up to the Tholangamur Central College. On the 26th of April, the walk for peace will proceed from the Tholangamur Central College to the Yakkala Chandrajyoti Vihara. On the 27th of April, the walk for peace will commence from the Yakkala Chandrajyoti Vihara and conclude at the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara. On the 28th of April, the walk for peace will depart from the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara, and upon reaching the Independence Square at around 4 p.m, the Sri Mahabodhi sapling will be formally handed over to the visiting Mahasangha by President Anurukumara Dissanayake in a diplomatic gesture. Following this, a procession will proceed past the Maharaja Media Network premises and conclude at the Gangaramaya Temple, marking the completion of the walk for peace.
We are paying close attention to security matters. Because of this, people may not be able to approach the monks as freely as usual to make offerings. However, the public may gather at overnight rest places, alms-giving venues, meeting points and along roadsides, particularly at places such as Kalaniya and Gangaramaya, to show their participation and support. If anyone intends to make offerings during the march, that will not be possible due to the security reasons and because the walk for peace will be relatively fast. We will not be stopping to receive offerings during the procession. However, after the 28th of April, we will be staying at Gangaramaya for 3 days, during which offerings may be made. A
question many have raised is whether Aloka, who drew wide public attention during the walk for peace, will participate in the Sri Lanka event.
Over the past few days, we confirmed that Aloka will be coming. Aloka is now ready to travel and will participate in the entire walk for peace. There may be some challenges, particularly regarding whether it will be possible to ensure Aloka's full participation in Sri Lanka as it was done in the United States. One reason is that there were no stray dogs on the streets in the United States, whereas Sri Lanka has many. I think Aloka may mulu gamanatama sahabagi wenawa.
Vice President of India, Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan, is set to make a historic first bilateral visit to Sri Lanka.
Vice President of India, Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan, will undertake an official visit to Sri Lanka from the 19th to the 20th of April 2026, marking the first bilateral visit by an Indian Vice President to the country. During the visit, the Vice President will call on the President of Sri Lanka, Anurukumara Dissanayake. He is also scheduled to meet the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. A number of memoranda of understanding between the two countries are also scheduled to be exchanged during the visit, focusing on enhancing cooperation, including in projects related to Cyclone Ditwa rehabilitation and development cooperation with the assistance of the Government of India. Vice President Radhakrishnan will be accompanied by a high-level delegation from the Government of India.
Pope Leo XIV has issued a strong moral warning against the manipulation of religion for military, economic or political purposes, condemning what he described as a distortion of the sacred for destructive ends. Referencing the teachings of Jesus, the Pope said, "Blessed are the peacemakers," while warning of great consequences for those who exploit religion and the very name of God for personal or strategic gain.
Jesus told us, "Blessed are the peacemakers." But woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain, dragging that which is sacred into darkness and filth. The masters of war pretend not to know that it takes only a moment to destroy destroy. Yet often, a life is often not enough to rebuild. They turn a blind eye to the fact that billions of dollars are spent on killing, on devastation, yet the resources needed for healing, education, and restoration are nowhere to be found. Those who rob your land of its resources generally invest much of the profit in weapons, thus perpetuating an endless cycle of destabilization and death. It is a world turned upside down, an exploitation of God's creation that must be denounced and rejected by every honest conscience.
US President Donald Trump defended his comments, pushing back on Pope Leo XIV's statements against the Iran war, saying he has a right to disagree with the pontiff and that he felt no need to meet to iron out their differences.
Mr. President, you had a conversation on the Pope. Mr. President, on the Pope. The Pope criticized people who, quote, manipulate religion for political or military gain. Do you think that he's talking about you, sir?
It's very important that the Pope understands. Very, very important. It'd be nice not to say it. Iran killed 42,000 people that were totally unarmed. They were protesters. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they did, every country, including Italy, where he's stationed, every single country in the world would be in trouble. So we're doing very well with respect to that, having to do with the whole situation on Iran. The blockade is amazing. It's holding up very strong, very powerfully. And I think we're making a lot of progress in that. But the Pope has to understand Iran, very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. The world would be in great danger.
Mr. President, would you meet with the Pope to even out your differences because Catholics are torn?
I don't think it's necessary.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced earlier this evening that the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz has been declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire. In reply, President Trump took to social media to thank Iran for opening the strait. Trump also thanked Pakistan, its Prime Minister and Army Chief for their role in mediating the peace talks, calling them two fantastic people. Following the announcement by Iran, oil prices have plummeted in the global market. The cost of a barrel of Brent crude fell to $88 a barrel, having been above $98 earlier today.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire. In a statement on X, he says, quote, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran, end quote. Moments later, US President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social saying, quote-unquote, Iran has just announced that the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you. However, in a follow-up post on Truth Social, Trump said that the Strait of Hormuz is quote-unquote completely open and ready for business and full passage, but the naval blockade will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran only until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete.
US President Donald Trump said that if a deal with Iran to conclude the war is reached and signed in Islamabad, he might go, and that Iran has agreed to almost everything. Trump struck an optimistic tone about Iran as he spoke with reporters on the White House lawn on his way to a trip to Nevada and Arizona. He said he could extend a US-Iran ceasefire set to expire next week, but may not need to do so.
Are you considering extending the ceasefire with Iran?
With who?
With Iran.
We're doing very well, I can tell you. Maybe it'll happen before that. I'm not sure it needs to be extended. Just so you know, Iran wants to make a deal, and we're dealing very nicely with them. We've got to have no nuclear weapons. If we do, that's a big factor. And they're willing to do things today that they weren't willing to do 2 months ago.
Pakistan has started preparing to host the second round of high-stakes talks between the US and Iran during the next week for a landmark peace deal to end the war in West Asia that has crippled global energy supplies. Though nothing has been officially said about the outcome of talks between the Pakistani civil and military leaders, security officials back home suddenly became active on Thursday evening. There are also reports that transport companies have been approached by the Islamabad and Rawalpindi district officials to inform them that traffic coming from other cities or leaving the twin cities may face drastic restrictions. According to a message shared on social media, such restrictions, once imposed, may continue until the end of next week. It urged citizens to avoid unnecessary travel during the next week or plan well in advance. Similarly, educational institutions may be closed in the two cities along with markets in areas close to the airport to reduce traffic on roads. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on Friday held a high-level meeting with Pakistan's Chief of Defense Forces, Field Marshal Asim Munir, in Tehran. The engagement underscored ongoing diplomatic and security-level contacts between the two countries. Mohsin Naqvi and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi were also present during the meeting. Earlier, Field Marshal Munir visited Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya headquarters, where he was received by Lieutenant General Abdullahi. Both sides discussed matters of mutual interest, including regional security cooperation. A resolution aimed at limiting President Donald Trump's ability to wage war in Iran has failed in the US Senate for the fourth time. If passed, the war powers measure would have halted US military action in the conflict without congressional approval. Senators rejected its 52-47 largely along party lines in the chamber, which is run by the president's fellow Republicans. Democrats said they plan to introduce similar measures every week, even if they did not pass, so each lawmaker's stance on the war can be recorded. On Wednesday, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth led a Pentagon prayer service and recited a prayer he said was used by the combat search and rescue team that saved the downed airmen in Iran. The prayer was adapted from the movie Pulp Fiction, when the assassin played by Samuel L. Jackson just before executing someone falsely cites a biblical passage that talks about striking down, quote-unquote, thee with great vengeance and furious anger.
The path of the downed aviator,
the path of the righteous man
is beset on all sides.
And is beset on all sides.
By the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
It's by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men.
And I will strike down upon thee with...
And I will strike down upon thee with...
great vengeance and furious anger.
Great vengeance and furious anger.
Those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother.
Those who attempt to poison and destroy my brother.
And you will know my call sign.
And you will know my name
is Sandy One.
Is the Lord.
When I lay my vengeance.
When I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Iran has given fallen and surviving IRIS Dana sailors a hero's welcome in Tehran.
Iran has commemorated the crew of the IRIS Dana destroyer during a solemn ceremony welcoming surviving sailors back to the country amid claims that the naval vessel was struck by an American submarine while operating in regional waters following exercises with India. According to Iranian accounts, the Dana, which reportedly did not carry heavy weapons at the time, was returning from naval exercises in India when it was hit. Sri Lanka rescued 32 Iranian crew from the warship IRIS Dana on the 4th March after it was hit by a torpedo from a US submarine. The bodies of 84 victims were recovered and have been repatriated. The ship was returning from a naval exercise organized by India amid the US-Israeli war on Iran. The ceremony welcoming the crew portrayed the Dana as a symbol of Iranian resistance.
The global economy is facing a broad and deep shock as disruptions linked to the Middle East war severely affect energy markets, commodity supply chains and financial stability. This is according to Jihad Azzo, Director of the International Monetary Fund's Middle East and Central Asia Department.
At the center of the shock is energy. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 1/5 of the global oil supply and above 1/4 of global LNG transit has come close to a standstill. Strikes and precautionary shutdowns have reduced oil and gas output by an estimated 13 million barrels per day of oil. Brent crude surpassed $100 per barrel, peaking at 118 before retreating following the ceasefire announcement, while European gas prices rose by roughly 60%, exceeding the spike observed after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The war has also affected services. Air traffic collapsed, maritime insurance premiums surged, and shipping routes lengthened. Logistics chains also weakened. Financial markets have retracted and reacted with wider sovereign spreads, capital outflow, and higher borrowing cost, often in countries where policy space was already limited. Taking together, this shock is broad, deep, and still unfolding. Among conflict-affected oil exporters, 5 of 8 economies are now projected to contract in 2026. For oil importers, vulnerabilities are compounding. These economies face higher energy costs, weaker remittances, and tighter financial conditions at a time where their buffers were already limited. Sovereign spreads have widened by 50 to 100 basis points across several countries during March, before returning to pre-conflict levels after the ceasefire. The IMF's core policy message at this juncture is one of disciplined agility. This is a moment for careful calibrated responses that protect the most vulnerable without compromising medium-term stability. Governments should allow automatic stabilizers to operate and deploy targeted temporary support for affected households. Those should be financed through reprioritized spending rather than expanding deficit. Broad fuel subsidies should not be reinstated or expanded. Central bank facing persistent inflation, particularly where policy stance remain accommodative, should maintain or tighten restrictive positions. Financial supervisors must sharpen oversight, liquidity, and foreign currency mismatch, and stand ready to deploy backstops where this is needed.
The International Monetary Fund has reaffirmed support for Sri Lanka and commended progress made amid global headwinds.
The Sri Lankan delegation, led by Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, has engaged in productive discussions with senior leadership of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank Spring Meetings 2026, along with meetings with rating agencies and investors. During the engagements, IMF Managing Director Dr. Kristalina Georgieva congratulated Sri Lanka on reaching a staff-level agreement for the combined 5th and 6th reviews under the Extended Fund Facility. She reaffirmed the IMF's continued support for Sri Lanka's efforts toward achieving durable economic recovery and sustained progress. The Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, Dr. Kenji Okamura, commended the progress made by Sri Lankan authorities despite significant global headwinds and domestic challenges. He acknowledged that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East has had asymmetric impacts across countries and stressed that financial support measures introduced to address these challenges should be well targeted and time-bound. Dr. Okamura also underscored the importance of restoring cost-reflective energy pricing in a timely manner and encouraged Sri Lanka to continue sustaining reforms and maintaining policy discipline to strengthen economic resilience and support long-term growth. Governor Veerasinghe expressed appreciation to the IMF leadership for the flexibility shown in program parameters, particularly in light of the severe challenges faced by Sri Lanka following the recent cyclone and evolving geopolitical developments. He reiterated Sri Lanka's continued commitment to pursuing reforms aimed at enhancing resilience, stability, and sustained economic growth.
General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana, Sagara Karyavasam, says that the arrest of former State Minister Sivanesa Chandrakanthan, alias Pillayan, in connection with the Easter Sunday attacks, is an act of political revenge. The Criminal Investigation Department arrested Pillayan on the 8th of April last year.
After this arrest, the president of this country made a statement claiming that Pillayan was arrested in connection with the Easter attacks. However, according to Pillayan, he has not been questioned even once regarding the Easter attacks. Furthermore, the individual who was remanded has now been moved from remand prison and is being held at the Valisara Navy camp. This is a complete act of political revenge. For a year, everyone, including the Cardinal, had been misled by claims of a connection to the Easter attacks. Now, it appears to us that Pillayan's arrest, based on a police statement made 19 years later regarding the alleged disappearance of a former vice-chancellor, is a politically motivated act of retaliation.
Meanwhile, a satyagraha was held this morning in front of the Batiklo Gandhi Park to support the hunger strike launched in prison by former State Minister and leader of the Tamil Makkal Vidutale Puligal, Sivanesa Chandrakanthan. The protest was organised by local government members of the TMVP. Meanwhile, prison's media spokesperson A.C. Gajanayaka told Newsfirst that the former Chief Minister of the Eastern Province, Sivanesa Chandrakanthan, widely known as Pillayan, is continuing to receive treatment at the Valikada Prison Hospital. The spokesperson noted that Chandrakanthan was admitted the day before yesterday due to health complications arising from his refusal to consume food. He added that the TMVP leader will be transferred back to the Valikada prison following the completion of his medical treatment. Sivanesa Chandrakanthan served as the Chief Minister of the Eastern Province from 2008 to 2012. After winning a seat in the 2020 parliamentary election, he served as the State Minister during the presidency of Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Chandrakanthan was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department on the 8th of April 2025 in connection with the abduction and enforced disappearance of Professor Sivasubramaniam Ravindranath, who served as the Vice-Chancellor of the Eastern University. It is also noteworthy that investigations are ongoing regarding his alleged involvement in matters related to the Easter Sunday attacks.
Reverend Father Cyril Gamini Fernando, the media spokesperson for the Archdiocese of Colombo, convened a press conference today emphasizing that no obstacles should be placed in the way of the investigations that are being conducted into the Easter Sunday attacks.
We believe that these investigations are being conducted systematically, impartially and very methodically. Even if there are some delays, it is clearly evident that investigations are taking place in an orderly manner. Consequently, we can see that certain individuals have become agitated as these investigations proceed systematically. I believe the public has sensed this as well. Since the beginning, some have tried to build a narrative that Zaharan Hashim and this Muslim extremist group alone are entirely responsible for the Easter attacks. Books were written for this purpose. Some even published them, and they went before the media repeatedly trying to prove this point. They are still making that effort. However, the truth is that there is someone or a group of individuals above Zaharan who are behind this brutal attack. This is now becoming clear through the ongoing investigations. When we look at the case of Eknaligoda and the murder of Lasantha Wickramatunge, the investigations conducted into them, the reports submitted and those court proceedings, it is clearly visible that such groups have been used by politicians. We appeal to every citizen on behalf of the victims of this brutal attack to support these investigations. Conducting an investigation or arresting someone on suspicion does not mean that person is a criminal. Therefore, no one needs to fear the investigative process. We have faith that once investigations are concluded and taken before the court, justice will be served. We are all striving to find the truth through these investigations and to ensure justice for the victimized people.
Meanwhile, an incident involving the intimidation of witnesses was also disclosed during this press conference.
This is a B report with the number B35822/2/24 filed by the CID at the Fort Magistrates Court. According to the facts reported therein, after a witness from the Negombo area provided a statement to the CID on the 11th. A sergeant from the Army Intelligence Unit, along with another unidentified individual, visited the home of the witness's family on the 12th of March to inquire about him. The CID has reported to the court that this incident poses a serious threat to the witness's safety and has informed the court that an investigation into the matter is underway. Looking at this event, we hear that several similar incidents have occurred. It appears that there is still influence from those members of the military intelligence I mentioned earlier, not the entire military intelligence unit, but those connected to these matters who are trying to disrupt the investigations by threatening and intimidating witnesses. Therefore, we urge the government and the investigating officers to conduct immediate inquiries to identify who is behind this. We need to find out exactly who is exerting this influence, who is carrying out these intimidations, and who is attempting to obstruct these investigations.
Move forward, Sri Lanka.
All arrangements have been finalized for the Kalugan Puravara Syrian New Year festival, which will be held in Kalutara tomorrow as part of the Gambad initiative, bringing the festive spirit of the Sinhala and Tamil New Year to the region.
The Kaluganga Puravara Siri New Year Festival will be held tomorrow morning at the William Godallavatta grounds in Bombuala, Kalutara. The event will feature a range of traditional sports, including bicycle and cross-country races, kottapura and folk song performances. The Aurdu Kumariya and Aurdu Kumaraya will also be selected during the event. Following the day-long New Year celebrations, a musical show is scheduled to take place in the evening. Popular artists including Sanuka Vikramasinghe, Neil Varnakula Surya and Hana Shafa are set to perform at the show.
The bodies of the 6 people who went missing after drowning at the Kurayatiya Gahamula crossing of the Dadaru in Kubegane were recovered today. The total number of lives lost in this tragedy thus rose to 8.
10 people who had travelled to visit relatives for the New Year were involved in a tragic accident in the Dadaru Oya yesterday at around 3 p.m. According to witnesses, an elderly member of the group first got into difficulty in the water. Others who were present then attempted to rescue him. Locals and people nearby immediately rushed in and with collective effort managed to rescue 2 individuals and admit them to the hospital. By that time, 8 people had gone missing. Of the 8 missing persons, 2 were recovered yesterday. They were already dead at the time they were found. The remaining 6 bodies were recovered today. Separately, reports indicate that 7 people from Kadavata had travelled to Kobegane, Ambalayagama to visit relatives. Yesterday evening, the entire group went to bathe in the Dadaru Oya at Kuratiya Gahamula in Ambalayagama. It has been reported that there were 15 people in the group. Local residents also made a significant effort to rescue those who were drowning. Of the 2 people who were rescued, 1 woman is currently receiving treatment in the intensive care unit of the Nikavaratya hospital. The deceased have been identified as a 39-year-old businessman Samira Pradeep Pushpakumara of Hengamua in Kobegane, along with his 34-year-old wife, their 9-year-old child and the 72-year-old father. Also among the dead are 42-year-old Nirosha Lakmali of Hengamua, the wife of Samira's brother, along with her 13-year-old son and her 70-year-old father. An 18-year-old student also lost his life in this tragedy. According to police, the location at Kuratiya Gahamula in the Dadaru Oya is approximately 35 feet deep. The sandy and muddy nature of the riverbed is also believed to have contributed to the accident. The Nikavaratya magistrate Chandana Lianage has conducted an on-site inspection of the location. The weekend lies ahead of us, with many people expected to travel after missing New Year trips. We at Newsfirst once again urge you to be cautious. There is nothing more valuable than your life.
Sri Lanka Navy said that more than 161 kilograms of heroin have been recovered from a multi-day fishing vessel that was taken into custody by the Sri Lanka Navy and brought to the Dikobita harbour. Deputy Minister of Defence said the seized narcotics consignment has an estimated street value of exceeding 4 billion rupees.
Sri Lanka Navy intercepted a local multi-day fishing trawler and apprehended 4 suspects in connection with the smuggling of a stock of suspected narcotics and escorted them to the Dikobita fisheries harbour. During the investigation, it was revealed that 161 packets of heroin were concealed within 6 containers.
ජාවාරම සහ සන්තක කියන වරදවල් වලට ඔයාලා අතර දෙනාම අතරක් කරනවා. 2025 මේ මාස 4 ජනවාරි සිට අප්‍රේල් දක්වා මහමුහුදේ නාවික හමුදා මූලික වෙලා අල්ලපු ඒ මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය වල වටිනාකම රුපියල් මිලියන 50000කට ආසන්න. බෝට්ටු 4ක් සැකකරුවන් 127ක් 130කට ආසන්න. ඔවුන්ට නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා මේ රජයේ කිසිම ලිහිල් භාවයක් නැහැ. මේ රටෙන් මේ මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය ජාවාරම මේ අපරාධ මේ සංවිධාන අපරාධ සියල්ලක්ම තුරන් කරනවා. ඒක විශ්වාසයි. ඒක අපි ප්‍රතිපත්තියත් අපි සඳහන් කරලා තියෙනවා. ලස්සන ජීවිතයක් කියන එක.
The Cricket University project that Sri Lanka Cricket authorities planned to construct in 2017 has now become a white elephant, as the funds spent on this initiative have yet to deliver any meaningful value or outcome. Here's a deep look. It was revealed before the Committee on Public Enterprises or COPE that Sri Lanka Cricket authorities purchased a plot of land in Kandy in 2017 and spent 50 million rupees for the purpose.
50ක් පරිත්‍යාග කරන තීරණය කළා 25ක් තමයි දෙන්නේ. ඉතිරි 25 ඔබතුමාලා තීරණය කළා තාම නෑ දෙන්න හෝ නොදෙන්න. ඔකට අපේ ගමේ භාෂාවෙන් කියන්නේ ගල් කරා කියලා. ලක්ෂ 250ක් මේක තමයි ෆොරන්සික් කියන්නේ. මේක තමයි ව්‍යවහාරික විගණනය කියන්නේ.
Due to the failure to obtain proper approval to use the title university, Sri Lanka Cricket informed the COPE that the project would instead be converted into a cricket high performance centre.
මේක high performance center කියලා අපි වෙනස් කරලා අපි දැන් වැඩ පටන් ගන්න යනවා ඉන්ඩෝනෙට්ස් 10යි turf wickets 10කුත් දාලා එතන අපිට ප්‍රශ්නය ආවේ මේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ නම දාන එකෙන් මේකට approval ගන්න ඕන කියලා UGC එකෙන්. ඉතින් අපි ඒකින් තමයි දැන් මේකේ සභාපතිතුමා නම වෙනස් කළා අපි high performance center එකට convert කරේ.
According to the information discussed at management committee meetings in 2019, the proposed high performance centre was planned as a 5-story building. The amount discussed for the first floor at the management committee meeting was 142,720,640 rupees. For the second floor, allocations of 176,964,340 rupees were discussed. The amount proposed for the third floor was 99,078,080 rupees. For the fourth floor, discussions reflected a cost of 144,184,000 rupees. The estimated cost for the fifth floor was 6,617,400 rupees. The amount discussed for the lower ground floor stood at 114,502,540 rupees. For the ground floor, the figure discussed was 210,971,320 rupees. The total cost discussed at Sri Lanka Cricket Management Committee meetings for the entire project amounted to 895,038,320 rupees. However, despite purchasing the land in 2017 and spending 50 million rupees for it to construct a cricket university and later changing the name before the COPE committee to a cricket high performance centre, management committee documents continue to refer to the project as a cricket campus. Although various cost estimates have been discussed at management committee meetings over nearly a decade, the land purchased for constructing the cricket university appears in this state. While Sri Lanka cricket authorities have repeatedly cited different reasons to deflect the issue at different times, this example alone is sufficient to question what meaningful progress Sri Lanka cricket has delivered to the game over the last 10 years. For your attention. The annual Josephian Vehicle Parade of St. Joseph's College, Colombo 10 will take to the streets this year too on Saturday, the 25th of April 2026. However, given the ongoing fuel constraints, the parade's organizers have opted for a more sustainable approach, and the much-awaited parade is making its return as the Josephian Cycle Parade 2026.
The Josephian Vehicle Parade has been reintroduced as the Josephian Cycle Parade for 2026 as the organizing committee shifts to a more sustainable format amid ongoing fuel challenges in the country. Organized by St. Joseph's College, Colombo 10, the event aims to promote eco-friendly practices while continuing its long-standing tradition of bringing together past and present Josephians.
Let me first start off by saying the Josephian Vehicle Parade is a proud and distinguished tradition, deeply rooted in the heritage of St. Joseph's College, Colombo 10. Its origins date back to 1985, when it began as an informal initiative driven by passion and camaraderie in 2009, under the leadership of the 2006 batch. It was formally inaugurated, marking a significant milestone of its journey. Since then, the parade has grown from strength to strength, and today we celebrate its 15th consecutive year, an achievement that reflects the unwavering commitment of the Josephian fraternity. In response to the prevailing fuel challenges, we are proud to introduce a new dimension to this tradition. This year, however, we took a bold and timely step forward to introducing the Josephian Vehicle Parade 2026. On the 25th of April 2026, we aim to bring together over 200 cyclists, Josephians of all ages, along with their families, to take to the streets in vibrant blue and white.
This year's parade will also be the Silence Initiative, which focuses on a smart board donation project for the deaf and blind school in Ratmalana.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Primetime News on TV1.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.